Hey everybody, this is Erica with Good Game Media, and today we are finally going to be reviewing Emile from the Halo Reach Play Arts Kai line. You can see Emile in all of his badass glory with his shotgun accessories, his kukuri knife, or however you say it. I'm not exactly sure the pronunciation. He's got some really nice extra shotgun shells here, his nice red shoulder guard. More detailing on the back, couple grenades back here, nice ammo pack on his thigh, another Emile shoulder guard here, nice set of grenades on the front, nicely detailed shotgun, and of course the badass Emile skull, or grinning skull, whichever you prefer to call it. So like the other figures, Emile is very well done, very well sculpted, really nice articulation, and overall detail is really cool. Just like the other guys, you can easily tell that this is Emile. As far as he goes compared to my other two Halo Reach Play Arts figures, Emile is a little bit rougher as far as like minor finishing details. Like he has a couple, I'm not sure what you call it, if you call it debris or flash from molding left over in some of his joints, and just in general just a little bit of presentation issues, but it does not really affect the overall figure. That's just something, if you're really nitpicky, you will notice on this figure, or actually I will point out to you. So as with the other videos, I'll be covering articulation. I will compare him with a McFarlane figure, and I will go over any quality control issues that I had with this figure. So without much further ado, let's get into the articulation. So as with the other ones, we're going to start from the bottom and work our way up. So we have here, when we look at Mr. Emile's ankle, he's on the standard ball joint, which is, on him, it's a little tight, but in some ways it's also very loose. Like, I'm really having a hard time doing anything with it, so that is a little bit, not bad, just, yeah, I don't know. It's just something that I notice. His other ankle is actually just fine, but, the one thing I notice on this, as far as, like, some craftsmanship issues go, is there's, like, debris of some kind. I don't know if it's, like, flashing from when he was put through the molding and casting process, but there's, like, some kind of debris down here, and there's even a little bit of, like, I don't know, leftover glue or some kind of sheen on his toes. I don't know if that's contributing to the overall stiffness of his right ankle joint. But, I mean, he doesn't fall over, and it doesn't really deter from the figure very much, but it's noticeable on Mr. Emile. I'm going to go up to his 2-point knee joint, and again, very easy to pose him, and frolicking pose. But Emile definitely does not frolic, and I'm sure if he was animated or alive in some way, shape, or form, he would probably kick my butt. So, yeah, Emile just doesn't frolic. We're going to go up to his hip joint. As with the others, this is actually pretty good. Nice rotation, easy to rotate, not too loose, not too tight. I have not done my standard pop off the leg test with him yet, so we're going to be doing this for the first time on the camera, and it actually looks like the leg kind of worked itself out there a little bit, so let's go ahead and pull this bad boy off. And if you see actually already that his rubber cod area actually needs to be reset on the little peg that we have right here. So I'm going to go ahead and reset that if I can. Let's see. So I can get that back on there. Yeah, there we go. So again, standard rubber, like with the other ones. This rubber is actually a little bit stiffer than the June and the 6 figures that I have, and I think that's making it a little bit more difficult for it to sit on the peg better. And also with his grenades right here, they tend to get in the way if you go to actually bend his body, and that pushes it down, and overall I think it just pushes this whole apparatus down. Not bad, but you don't really notice if his butt and his crotch piece come off the peg. So it's not entirely bad, and the leg again just easily pop back on there. But yeah, that's what I noticed. Like, he's just the rubber on Emile, for whatever reason, if it's just this run It's a little bit stiffer than the other guys. So we're gonna move up to his upper hips. Very nice. I mean, actually, this is pretty good. Not too tight. Again, not too loose. It's probably the better of the three as far as the hip rotation goes. Upper body is actually just as good. Not too floppy. Not too tight. Pretty nicely done. And the one thing I do notice on his back, though, in comparison to my other figures, is if you look on the upper torso area, for some reason, I don't know, again, if this is just my particular figure or something with this run, that you really notice his joints a lot more. Like on my other figures, you could not see in between this torso plate and the vertebrae plates on his back. So I'm not sure why that happens with Emile. I don't know if you guys have had the same thing with your Emile figure or if it's just mine. It's not, again, for me, it's not that big of a deal because it does not really affect the performance of the figure. So we're actually going to move up to his upper body. I'm going to take his shotgun away here. Give up the shotgun, Emile. Come on, there we go. So again, we're going to start from the hand. We're going to start with this hand here. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier. When I don't know if I can actually bring this up to the camera for you guys to see it, but there's a little piece of flash here that has actually managed to wedge itself in between the little, I guess I'll call it the nubbin for now, because these are on like a peg joint. Like these are swivel here, but there's a peg joint that actually goes into the hand. And with this flash being here, and it actually opened up where these two pieces are supposed to come together to make the peg joint, I actually did not change a hand on this because honestly I was afraid of this breaking. So I mean, the actual wrist itself is pretty good, but again, with this joint right here being exposed like that, or this being separated by this flash, I really wasn't digging trying to change his hand, so I actually made Emile a lefty. But again, his wrist is fine. Even notice a little separation in the forearm piece here. For whatever reason that did that, maybe if it's tying into the problem with the joint. But that's something I noticed on this. So again, the forearm's not... a little hard to get radial flexion on this forearm, but then again, I can't really recall if my other figures did that. The floating elbow joint, it's pretty tight on him actually, so I can get it to move, but a little bit tighter on him. I'm gonna go up to his larger pauldron here. The thing that's kind of cool about this is, if you can see here, it's actually on a swivel peg joint that actually inserts into his arm. So you actually get a neat posability with the shoulder pauldron. I mean, it's not a huge plush, but it's actually it's kind of neat. So if you go to pose something, you can move it around so you can get some different poses. We got his badass kukuri knife that you can pull out here, and it's actually pretty nicely detailed. I mean, it's got the nice little paneling here in the blade, and the grooves where you can see it was wrapped with whatever material. I haven't had any issues with it falling out. Maybe it's because it's curved that it won't fall out like the straight combat knives that the other Noble Team members have, but it's actually pretty good. As far as his head articulation goes, it's actually pretty nice. I noticed I hadn't covered this much with the other figures, but I mean, no issues with him whatsoever. You really have nothing that'll get in his way. So the articulation on his head is pretty good. So I'm going to actually set him up a little bit here, and we're going to get my good old George McFarlane figure here to get some size comparisons. So I'm going to scoot Emile over, and hopefully I will get him to stand. There we go. And Mr. George. Alright, see if we need to baby talk him to get him to stand up. There we go. He actually stood up on the first time. You don't like the baby talk, George, do you? Anyways, so right off the bat, you see that Mr. Emile somewhat towers over Mr. George here. I think you're looking at 5 inches with George, and about between 8.5 and 9 inches with Mr. Emile. I'll go over the price point again. For the McFarlane figures, you're going to be looking anywhere between $12 and $15. compared to anywhere between $50 to $60 for the Play Arts Kai version of Emile. So of course, you know, with a $35 price point difference, you are going to get a bigger figure with more articulation, and the bigger the figure, the easier the finer details are. Let me try that again. The easier the detail is to see. So, it really, the big difference is just this is a much more expensive figure than the McFarlane figure. And, just for me, because I had the extra nerd money to throw around, I went ahead and I, made sure to collect Volume 1. But, you know, George is cool. They did a good job with his detailing and his weathering. I just really think the presentation on the Square Enix figure is better, but of course you're paying $35 more. So, Mr. George, thank you very much for your time. Here we go, we're gonna get you off to the side there. Quality control issues with Emile, which I touched on earlier. The overall presentation on him, I have to say, is a little bit rougher than 6 in June. Again, I'm not disappointed in this figure whatsoever. I mean, like I said, these are little nitpicky details that I noticed, just again, with how tight the joint on his left foot was, and the flash that somehow got wedged in between the wrist joint there. But you know, the scapular joints and everything on him are nice and tight. Across the body, I actually did want to cover with him, is somewhat of a challenge. Man, I just cannot get his arm to turn here. I do not want to rip off his arm, so I'm not going to force it right now. But across the body with him, to hold up the gun, is a little bit difficult because you have these grenade pouches here that get in the way. And sometimes the grenade cartridges on the bottom, when you go to try to put him in a squatting pose, can get in the way. So that being said with Emile, I mean, he's still awesome. I love him to death. His design is just so cool. I mean, how could you not like Emile? One cool thing with Emile that I did forget to point out is nice handy dandy peg on his shotgun that'll go right into the peg on his back. That goes into the peg on his back. Uh-oh. Alright, that's the first time I tried that. Ah, it's in there. Let's see how well it's in there. Yeah, it's in there pretty good. So, I didn't know if that was going to go in there good, but it did. But overall, I mean, Emile is a total badass. Even with his minor details, finishing details that I noticed that aren't 100% perfect, I mean, he's still incredible. I mean, you know, I've been very happy with the overall presentation of the Volume 1 figures. Really no complaints. I mean, there may be, I actually honestly have not held these up next to their actual game renders, but I don't know. To me, these are action figures, and I can easily tell who they are. And just as far as being a collector and a fan of cool designs, I mean, these guys are awesome. These should be coming out soon in North America. Like I said, anywhere between $40 and $60, depending on where you get them, and also depending on shipping. You can find these on eBay. You can get these from Hong Kong, as they're legitimate. They actually got theirs in November, so if you're still waiting and you're getting antsy, you can check eBay. Amazon may have these when they're finally domestically released, but I mean, these guys are awesome. So if you have a favorite character and you have some extra cash, I highly recommend at least getting your favorite character if you're a fan of the Halo series. And you know, overall, these guys are awesome. As always, thank you very much for watching, and thank you so much to our subscribers. I mean, we're just inching up there with views and subscribers, so I really appreciate your guys' input and just in general for subscribing. Our site, we're redesigning it currently, and we're expanding and trying to cover as much as possible at goodgamemedia.com. And as always, please check back with us as we try to get some more reviews up here on figures and possibly even start doing some video reviews on some games. As always, thank you so much again for watching, and good game, guys.